and welcome to this week's YouTube video. Today I'm going to talk about painting light. This is quite a tricky topic, so I'm going to need a few diagrams to help explain what I mean as I go along. Firstly then, light always travels in a straight line. However, when it hits a reflective object, it can bounce around, but this again will always be in a straight line. This is called reflective light. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about painting shapes rather than objects in a video that I did. So at this point, I'd also like to mention the 5 fundamental solids out of which all forms on Earth are composed. So this is whether they are man-made or they are natural. So then, these are the sphere, the cube, the cylinder, the cone, and the pyramid. So if we think about the body of a cat, it's really comprised of perhaps cylinders, cones, pyramids and spheres. In both my cat paintings that I'm showing here, they are in fact basically cones. So in order then to fully understand how I will paint this cat effectively, you'll need to understand the relationship between form and value, or as we call it in the UK, tone. So to do this then, I'm going to show you the following exercise that I would encourage you to do with all the other different shapes that I've mentioned already. In this first exercise then, my cone is illuminated from the front, so the light is hitting the object head on. Notice what happens as I move my light source around, first to the left, then to the right, then up above. The change of tone is both abrupt and gradual depending upon how rounded the form is and at what angle the light is hitting the form. For rounded forms then, the change of value or tone will always be gradual. For faceted forms like cubes, the change of value is always abrupt, so it's worth remembering that rule. Going back to my painting examples then, the light source is behind the cat. So let's have a look at what happens to our cone when we backlight it. So notice then that we have a halo of light around our object where it is brightest. There is a very abrupt transition to a mid-tone, which then transitions to a medium dark tone for where the least amount of light is hitting our object. Notice also we will be getting a certain amount of reflected light hitting our object from the shiny surface it is sat on. Look at the cast shadow also and how this follows the direction of the light. So now I have the theoretical principles of how my light source is behaving and the relationship it forms with my object. Let's have a look at the actual painting and see how these principles work in practice. So before we begin then, I'm just going to mention one more rule to you which is very important. So warm light equals cool shadows and cool light equals warm shadows. So in this painting, I have established that my light is warm, so my shadows will be cool. If you make everything too warm, you will end up with a painting that just looks muddy. Also, when mixing up your colours, remember that all colours are comprised of either red, yellow or blue. Red plus yellow are warm, blue is cool. So your warm areas need to be carrying red and yellow and your cooler areas blue. It is also worth remembering that by adding white and or black to a colour, this will cool it down. So if you are trying to paint a warm but light area, white alone isn't going to work where your light is warm. In this painting, I have added cadmium yellow to the white and also a separate mix of green, which is heavy on the cadmium yellow, plus white. I know in this painting that the light source is coming from the right, as the shadows across the cat's back and the right end side suggest this. as our shadows will travel in the same direction as our light. Remember also, in the exercise that we just did, we saw a halo around the object where it was backlit, and there was also an abrupt change of value. This area then will carry our most saturated colours. So in this painting I have used a mix of cad red and cad yellow for my light transition area, before my hues turn cooler with the addition of black. I also don't want to go too heavy on my blues for my shaded areas, remembering that everything is in relation to what is around it. So the wall directly underneath the cat needs to be cooler than our really warm sunny areas, but the colour of the wall is still a neutral brown. If I go too heavy on the blue, I will lose that realistic effect of a cat sat in a really sunny spot, which is what I want. Also, I should mention that to give this painting a head start, I covered it in a wash of raw sienna plus terps. This helped set me up with a warm base that I could easily adjust. So here it is then, the finished painting. I hope you enjoyed this week's YouTube video. I do try and post every week, so please like and subscribe if you can. Also check out my website sarahhallidayart.com, where you will find examples of my work and also online lessons and classes that I run. Thank you for watching and see you for the next one.